What I discovered behind my childhood bedroom door that night changed everything. 5 minutes later, I was calling 911 on my own parents. This isn't just another family drama story. This is about betrayal, stolen heirlooms, and how sometimes the people closest to you are capable of unthinkable things. Coming home from college should have been simple. I was exhausted, carrying about 10 hours of sleep debt, just looking forward to crashing in my old room with that cheap lavender candle still sitting on the windowsill from last summer. But the moment I mentioned going to my room, everything shifted. "Don't go in there," my mom said, too quickly, too sharp. "It's just storage now," my dad added, his voice tight with something I couldn't place. My childhood bedroom, the one place in that house that ever truly felt like mine, was suddenly off limits. No explanation. No warning. Just closed. They shuffled me off to the guest room instead. A folded couch, strange odors, missing pillow, broken springs. Everything about that night felt like we were all performing in a play nobody believed in anymore. Here's what you need to understand about my family. We weren't the screaming, dramatic type. We made pasta. We smiled. We asked about school. We were experts at making everything look perfectly normal on the surface. But underneath, I was always the afterthought. Vivienne, my older sister, was the golden child. Better grades, shinier hair, clearer life goals. She got journalism school funding while I worked retail to afford textbooks. She studied abroad in Florence while I mastered the art of overdraft fees. When she decided she needed a gap year to find herself traveling through Thailand and Morocco, my parents glowed with excitement. They even started planning to use Grandma's inheritance. And yes, they said when, not if, to fund her adventure. But here's what they didn't understand. What made their casual planning so gut-wrenching. Grandma and I shared something none of them could touch. Music. She taught me cello and piano before I could reach the pedals. Her hands moved like water across the keys, and mine tried desperately to keep up. She had this locked cabinet filled with instruments that looked like they belonged in a museum. Violas with intricate inlays, flutes with carved keys, a mandolin that took my breath away. These weren't just instruments. They were family history, passed down through generations, played with care, never sold. "They're meant for you," she told me one day. Not like a gift, like a continuation of something sacred. When my parents found out, they were furious. "It's not fair to give it all to Raimi," I heard my dad say late one night. "Those things belong to the whole family," my mom agreed. Translation: they belong to Vivienne. Vivienne, who couldn't tell an oboe from a goose call. Grandma stood her ground. She wasn't dead yet, she reminded them. She had the right to decide what happened to her things. Then came the night that changed everything. Grandma was in the hospital. Just a precautionary stay, they said. She came home to find her back window shattered and every single instrument gone. The entire collection vanished. I'd never heard my grandmother cry before. Not at funerals. Not when Grandpa died. Not through cancer taking her best friend. But this broke her. "They're gone," she kept repeating. "I thought I'd have time to show you everything." 2 days later, she was back in the hospital. The doctor said stress was making everything worse. I sat by her bedside, watching her sleep in restless half-hour intervals, feeling rage toward whoever had done this to her. And then I found out exactly who it was. Back to that night in my childhood home. I couldn't sleep. Something about that locked door kept nagging at me. My room had never had a lock. Not once. Not even when I begged for one in high school. After midnight, I got up. The boxes that had been stacked in front of my door earlier? Gone. Just gone. I found the spare key in its usual hiding spot behind the laundry shelf. New, shiny, taped exactly where they always kept extras. I slid the key in. Click. The door opened. The smell hit me first. dust and stagnant air, like the room hadn't breathed in weeks. Then I saw them. Every single instrument. Every case. The entire collection that had supposedly been stolen, tucked under a tarp in my childhood bedroom, like buried treasure. They hadn't been stolen. They'd been hidden. 5 minutes later, I was outside, hands shaking, dialing 911. I didn't knock on their door. I didn't confront them. I just waited for the police to arrive, standing by the mailbox in the cold, unable to step back into that house. 28 minutes later, I counted. The patrol car rolled up. No sirens. No drama. Just the quiet hum of justice arriving at a sleepy suburban street where nothing ever really happens. Watching from the sidewalk as officers entered my childhood home felt surreal. These people who raised me, who made me pasta and asked about school, were about to be exposed as thieves who'd stolen from an 89-year-old woman. When they brought the instruments out, case by case, I watched my parents' faces through the window. The moment my mom spotted me on the sidewalk, her expression shifted to something I'd never seen before. Cold, silent recognition of what I'd done. They stared. I stared back. No words needed. I was no longer their daughter. I was a betrayer. The phone calls started immediately. 47 missed calls before sunrise. How could you do this to us? My mom screamed when I finally answered. You hid the collection, I said quietly. You told Grandma it was gone. You filed a false insurance claim. She's fine, my dad jumped in. She didn't die. She could have. Then came the line that ended everything. You're not our daughter anymore. But it was what my dad muttered under his breath that really broke me. She's old anyway. They'd been waiting for her to die. That's what this was about. I hung up. Blocked them both. When Vivienne called trying to play peacemaker, we just needed the money. It's not like anyone was hurt. I blocked her too. 6 months later, the text came through my cousin. They pled guilty. Sentenced today. 1 year house arrest. 400 hours community service. Felony charges. Ankle monitors. They can only leave for trash pickup and food bank shifts. It's all public record now. Neighbors who used to wave cross the street. Nobody stops by anymore. Vivienne disappeared from social media, then reappeared with inspirational quotes about inner peace and comments disabled. Grad school on pause. The big trip cancelled. Still living at home with no real plans. Last week, Grandma turned 90. We threw her a party, small but full of people who never stopped calling during her hardest days. Former music students brought their kids to meet the woman who taught them that every note has meaning. Around 5 p.m., as the light came through the curtains just right, Grandma walked to the piano. The room fell silent. She played like she was still 60, like the last year hadn't taken anything from her. When she finished, someone said, 90 looks good on you. Grandma grinned, might have another decade in me if nobody tries to kill me again. The room erupted in laughter, but I believed her. Here's what I learned. Some people think growing old gives everyone else permission to start the countdown. Like, once you hit a certain number, you become optional. Easier to forget. But nobody gets to decide how much time someone has left just because it suits their life better. Grandma might live to 95 or 100 or even longer. I'm not counting down. I'm just showing up. The instruments are home. The music has returned. And sometimes that's enough. So tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and doing what's right? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want more real stories about family, betrayal, and finding the courage to stand up for what matters. Because sometimes the hardest person to protect someone from is family.